Hey, folks, how are you? This is Kurt with Manana No Mas, and I wanted to come to you today with a little bit of a different message, and it's all around that whole acronym MVP. It's been hitting me here the last few days. So this week's just been a week of bad passwords, can't get access to tools, working with contractors, been having the team disperse, working remote, and trying to make things happen, connect customers with vendors, and get things to work. And it gets me thinking about MVP. Now, I'll get right to it. If I were in the sports world, I say get right to it. I didn't even tell you yet. Folks, this is broadcasting out to the Power Sport Academy on Facebook. It's going out to LinkedIn on my personal page, and it's going to the Manana No Mas YouTube account. So if you're on any of those three and you want to chime in with a comment or you have a question or whatever, I should be able to see those comments come up, and then I should be able to respond to you. If for some reason I miss it or it doesn't come through on the StreamYard product, I'll catch up to those comments in those streams afterwards. Okay. So again, back to this MVP concept. I use the term MVP a lot when I am working with people in the web space, because when a client comes on board, they have these visions of grandeur about launching their business. They have this, I've got this idea, I've got this concept, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to automate this, and I want to bring this over from here, and I want to connect to this and connect to that. And sometimes you just have to tell folks, hey, easy, one step at a time. Let's watch your budget. Let's look at the calendar. Let's get you going with a minimal viable product first. Let's do a proof of concept. Let's make sure that your idea can gain a tribe, can gain an audience, can pick up momentum. And then once you have that momentum, once you have people, an audience, that begins to assemble, well, then you can add, features and automations and things that make sense. But better than that, you bring in people from the audience, from the tribe, from the circle. You bring them into the development process, and it gives them more skin in the game, higher sense of ownership, and it improves loyalty to a digital product over time. Now, this is a strategy that a lot of folks have employed and found great success with. Unfortunately, in the startup field, people are less apt to believe that would work, because a lot of folks have this perfection disease where they think, well, their product has to be perfect before they can launch it to the public. And, in my circles, working with, folks in the e-learning sector or the membership sector or even e-commerce, will say, well, done is better than perfect, right? And so we use the term minimal viable product in a way to spur people to take action, in a way to spur people towards some semblance of success. Now, MVP in the sports world, that means most valuable player. Right? So who's the MVP, right? Do you want to be the MVP of your organization? Let's go get it. MVP, most valuable player. And that obviously makes sense, right? Folks should be driven. Folks should want to be the MVP. People should enjoy success. But what I'm running into time and time again is a different version of MVP. Give you an example. AT&T right now is making all kinds of noise in front of my house. They're tearing up the street. They got jackhammers going. They are digging holes. They're putting in fiber optic internet, right? So they are all over the neighborhood, digging up the neighborhood, sidewalks, street, yards, whatever it takes to lay this fiber optic cable in place. Now, they warned us ahead of time. They said, oh, you're going to have to move your cars. We'll be working in front of your house, this, that, and that. That part was great. But I've been looking at the work. They tore up the sidewalk and then put this blacktop stuff down. Didn't even smooth it out. Like, if you're an old person walking a dog at night, how you wouldn't roll an ankle or wouldn't injure yourself on this makeshift sidewalk would be a mystery to me. And that's like when minimal viable people put out a minimal viable product, right? And when I say a viable product, a walkway that you can't walk on isn't really a minimally viable product. Are you tracking what I'm saying? So in the web space where I work, There are folks that, um, I'll be working with a customer and I'll say, hey, I need your username and password to access your hosting account or to access the back end of your website or whatever. And they'll send the wrong information. They'll send incorrect information. They won't be able to get on a Zoom call for 4 days. They won't be able to. And when all that is happening, people don't recognize that when they perform at a minimal viable way, as far as productivity goes, when they perform as a minimally viable person, they suck the energy and they suck the inspiration out of everybody around them. I mean, I liken this to, imagine someone working at a restaurant and they're like, okay, so today for the entree, we're going to have chicken Parmesan. And then they cook a ton of chicken Parmesan. Everyone's going, wow, that sounds good. Okay. Then the dinner service, comes time to, start worrying about dinner service, and people are coming and the seats are starting to fill up. And you're like, well, today's special is a chicken Parmesan. And people go, well, what comes with it? And the chef goes, oh, I don't know. Like, no side of pasta, no salad, no vegetables, no nothing, just chicken Parmesan. That would be like a minimal viable person, meaning that there's this opportunity to put forth something, and they put forth something that's barely acceptable to the people that surround them. I'm seeing this in the workforce. I hate to say everywhere, but I'm seeing this in the workforce everywhere. And I'm wondering, as I think about terms of the power sports world. So people that know me know that I have a project called Power Sport Academy. In the Power Sport Academy, we use communication and leadership to raise the level of relationships that people in fixed operations have with clients outside the shop. So perfect. That means, if I'm working with a dealership and you take your motorcycle in for service, that person should be able to engage you in conversation, ask open-ended questions, find out what you really need to have done to your motorcycle, what you want to have done to your motorcycle, communicate that to the technician in a way that makes sense, and then have a way of working that motorcycle through the shop in an efficient way so that the technician can look at it, diagnose it, sell the job, let you approve the job, and get the thing fixed in a reasonable amount of time. So that's part of how I teach people how to do this. And there's a lot of communication and leadership along the way. How does the service writer speak to the customer? How do they answer the phone? How do they make appointments? How do they write the repair order? How do they communicate the needs to the technician? How do they take the needs from the technician and communicate that back to the customer, make any sales that need to be made? And then how do they finalize the invoice, the paperwork, take care of the payment, and get the vehicle back to the customer? There's a lot of processes there. And a lot of what I do is focused on that area. But it takes people that are committed to success to get there. So MVP for them is most valuable player, not minimally viable person. So I was just looking on LinkedIn, and there's a salesperson that works in automotive. His name is Ian, and Ian teaches sales departments how to sell. And one of the comments that was in his page today says, my GM looks at golf equipment all day and none of my managers invest in our people. It sucks because I'm hungry to be the best and there's zero energy. All our managers preach is get good surveys, sell more cars, but they don't show us they believe in us. It's suffocating. So I read that and I thought about my experience in corporate America. I thought about how I would walk around the office and I would get coffee or I would be in between tasks and I'd look around and I'd see people shopping for mountain bikes online, see people shopping for sweaters on Etsy, see people, ordering custom coffee mugs. And you see all this happening, but you don't see activity. You don't see productivity. You don't see things that drive success or a customer relationship through the business entity during business hours. So I get back to, do you want to be an MVP as in most valuable player? Or are you struggling with being an MVP, a minimally viable person? It's a fair question. I'm trying to encourage folks to embrace MVP, to be the most valuable player. Like I said, when we talk about a minimal viable product and going to market, that's an inspirational way to say you need to do something, get something out to the people, make something happen, strive forward, and then continue to grow that minimal viable product into something that is actionably marketable and appeals to people that are in the MVP space, most valuable player space. And so when I think about that acronym, I think to myself, how do you inspire thinking about starting out with a minimal viable product and then keep investing in it and making it better and better and better until it appeals to the most valuable player? How do we take minimally viable people and inspire them and work with them and get them to be the productive members of the team that become almost the MVP, the most valuable player? It's been driving me nuts for days. And like I said, I've got time to think about that, because apparently a lot of my projects are locked up waiting for passwords and authorizations and, two-factor authorization in real time and all that kind of stuff. So today's a day of speed bumps. And during those speed bumps, I think to myself, is it enough to have published a book on communication and leadership? Is it enough to do these public talks and these speeches that I do? Is it enough to put out websites based on communication and leadership? Is it enough to do content like this that goes live to multiple channels? As a person, how can I become more than a minimally viable person? How can I become a most valuable player? I ask myself that. I hope that you ask yourself the same thing. I'm not seeing a lot of positivity in the news. I'm not seeing the economy bouncing back. I am not seeing a lack of layoffs anywhere. I just saw a ton more layoffs announced just last night, right before I went to bed. I was looking at LinkedIn News and saw a ton of layoffs in there. And it's not going to get easier. We cannot continue to be minimally viable people and expect that life is going to get easier. We have to put the work in. We have to put the time in. We have to put the effort in. And we have to add value to others every turn we get, every chance we get. So for my part, I jump into WordPress meetup groups. I've been jumping in all over the country on these remote WordPress meetups, adding value where I can, taking away value where I can. There's different organizations. GoWP has a thing that they do once or twice a week where they get people together. I get in that, Lifter LMS, WP Tonic. So I'm trying to be involved, but I still find myself wondering, how do I become the most valuable player as opposed to the most minimal, right? the minimal viable person. That's a mean way of saying it. But folks, I'm seeing it all around me. I am seeing it all around me. I'm looking at these guys out front doing the work with AT&T, and there must be 35, 40 guys walking around with construction stuff on in my neighborhood doing this project, and there's maybe 8 to 10 of them doing a solid day's work. It sounds judgmental. It sounds harsh, but unfortunately, it's real. So how can we take a more realistic look at ourselves? How can we apply ourselves more? And I'm talking to myself the same as I'm talking to you. I'm wondering, what else could I do? Could I be a better dad? Could I be a better husband? Can I be more active at church? Can I, what is it that I can do that's going to add more value and bring that MVP, most valuable player energy to the table instead of being an MVP, minimal viable person energy to the table? And I don't see any comments on this one. So maybe it was just a little too close to home for some. If you watch the replay and you think you got a comment or something you want to kick in, I would love to participate in this conversation. And incidentally, if you got somewhere that you need me to be, you want me to speak to your youth group, you want me to talk at your high school, you want me to talk to your office, man, just hit me up. Hit me up on LinkedIn Messenger. You can jump in on Mañana No Mas on the contact page. You can go to kurtvanonen.com. kurtvanonen.com is my personal site where I list my speaking and have different ways to get in touch with me. I even got a free course on there for how to increase your LinkedIn connections list. So have yourself a wonderful day. I will talk to you another time. Bye-bye.